The discovery d'Ivoire. Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the observation deck's cool metal surface and stared out at the impossible sight before her. The Galactic Performance Institute's research station, Nexus Prime, floated in the void like a massive crystal flower. Ships from hundreds of worlds docked and departed in perfect synchronization. Some vessels resembled living coral formations, others appeared as geometric puzzles of light and shadow. While a few looked like they had grown rather than been built, Sarah adjusted her lab coat and checked her chronometer. Her first day working alongside the galaxy's most brilliant minds, and she was already 5 minutes late. The human transport from Earth had arrived ahead of schedule, leaving her scrambling to find her assigned laboratory in the station's maze-like structure. The corridors of Nexus Prime hummed with quiet efficiency. Sarah passed beings she had only seen in textbooks, tall, graceful ethereals who seemed to glide rather than walk, stocky Terran miners whose exoskeletons gleamed under the station's soft lighting, and delicate gossamer folk who floated in personal atmosphere bubbles. She found Laboratory Complex 7 and paused outside the entrance. Through the transparent doors, she could see 3 figures gathered around a holographic display. Sarah took a deep breath and stepped inside. The first being to notice her arrival stood nearly 8 feet tall. Its body appeared to be carved from living crystal with faceted surfaces that caught and refracted the laboratory's light into dancing rainbows. When it spoke, its voice resonated like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Dr. Chen, I presume. I am Professor Vexilon of Zerion Prime. Welcome to the Galactic Performance Institute." The crystalline being's head tilted in what Sarah assumed was a greeting gesture. "Your research on human stress responses has generated considerable interest among our colleagues. Thank you, Professor. I'm honored to be here." Sarah tried not to stare as the professor's crystal structure shifted color from deep blue to warm amber. A soft whisper drew her attention to the second figure. What, at first, appeared to be empty space gradually resolved into a vaguely humanoid form of swirling gas and stardust. The being's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I am Dr. Mira Velteth of the Nebula Sectors. Your species intrigues us greatly. We have observed some unusual patterns in human behavior that contradict established galactic norms." The gaseous form pulsed with soft, bioluminescent patterns as it spoke. The third member of the team was Director Colthus, an insectoid being whose chitinous exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian. Multiple compound eyes tracked Sarah's movement as she approached their workstation. When Colthus spoke, its mandibles clicked rhythmically. "Dr. Chen, before we begin our collaborative research, you must understand a fundamental truth about all intelligent life in the galaxy. Please, observe." Director Colthus manipulated the holographic display, showing a complex 3-dimensional chart filled with data points from thousands of species. Professor Dexilon's crystal body resonated with a low educational tone. For over 3,000 years, the Institute has studied intelligent species from across the galaxy. We have documented beings from gas giants and crystalline worlds, hive minds and singular consciousnesses, energy-based life forms and carbon-based creatures like yourself. Despite the incredible diversity of life, one universal truth emerges from our research. Dr. Velteth's form shimmered as she continued the explanation. Every species in the galaxy follows the universal stress degradation law. When faced with pressure, danger, or high-stakes situations, performance decreases. It is as fundamental as gravity or thermodynamics. The holographic display showed countless examples. Crystalline beings like Professor Vexilon would fracture their thought processes under stress, becoming paralyzed by too many calculations. Gaseous species would literally disperse when faced with pressure, losing cohesion and focus. Hive minds would fragment. Energy beings would discharge chaotically. Machine intelligences would enter endless loop protocols. This response makes perfect evolutionary sense. Director Coulthard explained, its compound eyes focusing intently on Sarah. When faced with danger, the optimal strategy is caution. Slow down, think carefully, avoid mistakes that could prove fatal. Those species that remained reckless under pressure did not survive to develop space travel. Sarah studied the data, frowning slightly. But what about fight or flight responses? Adrenaline. Emergency situations where quick action saves lives. Professor Vexilon's crystalline form shifted to a puzzled shade of green. We are unfamiliar with these terms. Could you elaborate? Before Sarah could answer, Director Coulthard continued. During your species evaluation for Institute membership, human subjects were tested under controlled stress conditions. The results showed standard degradation patterns, confirming that humans follow the same universal biological principles as all other species. Something about that statement bothered Sarah, but she decided to keep her concerns to herself for now. These beings had studied thousands of species across millennia. Her personal experiences were probably just exceptions to the rule. The team spent the morning reviewing research protocols and comparing notes on various species' stress responses. Sarah found herself fascinated by the alien perspectives, but also increasingly troubled by the universal stress degradation law. It didn't match her experience as a former military medic or her observations during medical emergencies on Earth around midday. The station's light suddenly flickered and changed to an amber warning status. A calm, synthesized voice echoed through the laboratory. Attention all personnel. Solar storm activity detected in this system. Magnitude 9.7, event approaching. All non-essential personnel should prepare for possible evacuation procedures. This is not a drill. Professor Vexilon's crystal body immediately shifted to a deep, worried purple. Magnitude 9.7. That is extremely dangerous. Such storms can destroy electronic systems and create lethal radiation exposure. Dr. Veltith's gaseous form began to condense slightly, pulling inward in what Sarah recognized as a defensive posture. We should immediately cease all research activities and await further instructions from Station Command. Director Coulthard's mandibles clicked rapidly. Emergency protocols require that we secure all sensitive equipment and materials. Each action must be performed with extreme care to avoid any mistakes that could compound the crisis. The alien. Researchers began moving with deliberate, careful precision. Each action was triple-checked. Every decision was analyzed from multiple angles. Their movements became increasingly slow and methodical as the stress of the situation mounted. Sarah watched this response with growing unease. The warning lights continued to flash, and she could hear similar announcements echoing through other parts of the station. But instead of feeling the careful, cautious response her colleagues were demonstrating, she felt something very different building inside her. Her heart rate was increasing, but not from fear. Her mind felt sharper, more focused. Colors seemed brighter, sounds clearer. She found herself automatically calculating evacuation times, thinking through backup systems, considering alternative solutions to problems that hadn't even been fully identified yet. The station shuddered slightly as the first solar radiation waves hit the outer shielding. The lights flickered again, and several research stations throughout the laboratory shut down automatically to conserve power. The situation is becoming more serious, Professor Dexelon observed, its color deepening to an almost black purple. We must be even more careful now. Hasty actions could prove catastrophic. But Sarah wasn't feeling hasty. She was feeling incredibly, impossibly focused. Her mind was racing through possibilities and solutions at a speed that surprised even her. Every system on the station, every evacuation protocol, every backup procedure she had studied that morning was suddenly crystal clear in her memory. The station shuddered again, more violently this time. Sparks flew from one of the research terminals, and the acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. That's the secondary power coupling, Sarah said, moving quickly toward the damaged terminal. If that fails, we'll lose life support to this entire section. Her colleagues stared as she began rapidly accessing diagnostic screens and rerouting power systems. Her hands moved with quick, precise efficiency across the control interfaces. Dr. Chen, Director Kolthas, said, its voice tight with stress, "Please slow down. In emergency situations, it is crucial to double and triple check every action. Mistakes made under pressure can be fatal." But Sarah wasn't making mistakes. Every action felt perfectly clear, perfectly right. The mounting crisis wasn't clouding her judgment or slowing her thinking. It was enhancing both. She rerouted power from non-essential systems to the life support backups just as the main coupling failed completely. The lights dimmed for a moment, then stabilized at emergency levels. "How did you know to do that so quickly?" Dr. Veltith asked, her gaseous form now compressed to barely half its normal size. Sarah paused, realizing she didn't have a good answer. She had just ... known. The pressure of the situation had made the solution obvious to her in a way she couldn't explain. The station's communication system crackled to life with an urgent announcement. "All personnel, this is Captain Torres in the command center. The solar storm is larger than initially calculated, magnitude 10.2 and growing. We are implementing immediate evacuation protocols. All transport ships are being prepared for emergency departure." Professor Vexelan's crystal form was now almost completely black with stress. Its usually clear, chiming voice had become discordant and fragmented. Magnitude 10.2 ... unprecedented. Must calculate ... risk assessment. Probability matrices. The professor seemed to be stuck in a loop, running endless calculations instead of taking action. Director Kolthas had frozen completely, overwhelmed by the number of safety protocols that needed to be considered. Dr. Veltith was barely maintaining coherent form, but Sarah felt more alive and focused than she had ever felt in her life. The approaching danger wasn't paralyzing her with caution. It was energizing her with purpose. She moved to the main communication panel and opened a channel to the command center. "Command, this is Dr. Chen in Laboratory Complex 7. We have life support issues in this section. What's the status on those transport ships?" Captain Torres's voice came through the speakers, tight with stress, but oddly clear and decisive. "Dr. Chen, we've got problems. 3 of the transport ships have suffered system failures from the electromagnetic pulses. We're working on repairs, but it's going to be close." Sarah could hear the same focused intensity in the captain's voice that she was feeling herself. While her alien colleagues were shutting down under the pressure, she and Torres seemed to be operating at peak efficiency. "Captain, I can help with the ship repairs. I'm sending my location. Have your engineering teams coordinate with me? Affirmative. Dr. Chen and Sarah. Good work on that power coupling. Chief Engineer Rodriguez saw your fix from the command center. He said it was exactly what he would have done, but you did it 3 times faster than he could have. As Sarah closed the communication channel, she became aware that her 3 alien colleagues were staring at her with something approaching amazement. "This is impossible," Professor Vexilon whispered, its crystal form flickering between confused colors. "Your performance is improving under stress, not degrading. This violates every known biological principle in the galaxy." The revelation. The next hour became a blur of focused activity that would later reshape the galaxy's understanding of human nature. While alien crew members throughout Nexus Prime struggled with the mounting crisis, a pattern emerged that defied 3 millennia of established science in the command center. Captain Torres coordinated evacuation efforts with calm precision that increased as the danger mounted. His decisions became faster and more accurate, not slower and more hesitant. Chief Engineer Rodriguez worked on the damaged transport ships with hands that grew steadier under pressure, not shakier. Dr. Kim from the medical bay moved through emergency procedures with enhanced clarity, saving lives while alien medical staff froze in analysis paralysis. Sarah found herself at the center of the evacuation effort, not because she had been assigned there, but because she had simply stepped up when action was needed. She coordinated between different departments, rerouted power systems, and solved technical problems with a speed and accuracy that left her alien colleagues stunned. Professor Vexilon followed Sarah through the corridors, its crystal form rapidly shifting colors as it tried to process what it was witnessing. "Dr. Chen, I must document this phenomenon. Your neural activity should be degrading under this level of stress, but our sensors indicate the opposite. Your brain is actually functioning at levels far above your baseline normal." "I feel incredible," Sarah admitted as she quickly reprogrammed a malfunctioning airlock. "Everything is so clear. I can see solutions to problems I didn't even know existed 5 minutes ago." Director Colthers, who had finally managed to overcome its paralysis enough to follow the group, clicked its mandibles in disbelief. This should not be possible. Evolution does not favor reckless behavior under threat. Species that acted hastily in dangerous situations were eliminated by natural selection. Dr. Veltith, now compressed to a tight spiral of concerned energy, whispered, "Her observations, but they are not being reckless. Watch carefully. Every action is precise, calculated, efficient. They are not acting without thought. They are thinking faster and more clearly than any species we have ever observed." In Transport Bay 7, Chief Engineer Rodriguez had solved a problem that had stumped a team of Zarian engineering specialists for the past 30 minutes. The transport ship's quantum drive had destabilized due to electromagnetic interference from the solar storm. The alien engineers had been running endless diagnostics and safety calculations. Unable to decide on a course of action, Rodriguez took one look at the quantum resonance patterns and began making adjustments with confident precision. "The harmonics are inverted," he explained to the amazed alien engineers. "You need to reverse the polarity on drives 3 and 7, then boost the containment field by exactly 23%. Any less and you won't stabilize the reaction. Any more and you'll overload the system." The Zarian engineers stared at their calculations. That solution, it would require extensive modeling and simulation to verify safety. "No time for that," Rodriguez said, his hands already moving across the control interfaces. "Trust me, this will work." It did work. The quantum drive stabilized perfectly, and the transport ship was ready for evacuation. What should have taken hours of careful analysis had been accomplished in minutes, through what the aliens could only describe as impossible intuition. Professor Allen was frantically recording everything. Its crystal form had stabilized into a bright, excited silver as the implications of what it was witnessing began to dawn on it. I am observing a complete reversal of the universal stress degradation law. Not only do humans not degrade under pressure, they actually improve. This is revolutionary. This changes everything we know about intelligent life. Back in the command center, Captain Torres was coordinating the final evacuation phases. The solar storm had reached magnitude 10.8, beyond anything in recorded galactic history. Most alien crew members were now completely overwhelmed by the stress, many sitting motionless or engaged in repetitive, non-productive behaviors. But the human crew was operating like a perfectly synchronized machine. Each person seemed to know exactly what needed to be done and exactly when to do it. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing, no endless committee discussions about optimal procedures. All sections report ready for evacuation, Torres announced. Transport ships 1 through 8 are loaded and ready for departure. Transport 9 will be ready in approximately 4 minutes. Sarah was making final checks on the life support systems when she noticed something troubling on her sensors. Captain, we have a problem. The solar storm is interfering with the transport navigation systems. The ships won't be able to navigate safely to the evacuation coordinates. In any other species, this news would have caused complete paralysis. The magnitude of the problem would have overwhelmed decision-making processes. But Torres just nodded calmly and opened a communication channel. All transport ships, this is Captain Torres. We're going to manually guide you out using the station's tracking array. Dr. Chen will coordinate the navigation sequence. Follow her instructions exactly. Sarah had never manually guided a fleet of spacecraft before, but somehow she knew she could do it. The pressure of the situation made the solution clear. She could see the flight paths, calculate the timing, account for the electromagnetic interference from the storm. It all made perfect sense. One by one, she guided the transport ships away from the station and through the chaotic electromagnetic fields of the solar storm. Each ship required different calculations, different timing, different adjustments for their unique characteristics. Any mistake would mean death for hundreds of beings. She made no mistakes. The alien passengers watched in amazement as the human crew performed what they considered miraculous feats of calculation and navigation under impossible pressure. Professor Dexelon was so excited by what it was documenting that its crystal form had begun to emit musical tones. This is unprecedented in galactic history, it announced to anyone who would listen. Humans do not merely resist stress degradation, they experience stress enhancement. Their performance improves exponentially under pressure. This explains so many mysteries about human behavior that we observed during their evaluation. Dr. Velteth, despite her compressed state, managed to add her observations. During the evaluation, we assumed the test conditions were insufficient to generate proper stress responses in humans. We thought they were simply not feeling enough pressure, but now I understand. They were feeling the pressure. They were just responding to it in a way we had never seen before. Director Colthers, still struggling with the implications, clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. If this is true, it means humans are uniquely suited for crisis management and emergency response. No other species in the galaxy can maintain peak performance under extreme stress, much less improve their performance. The final transport ship cleared the danger zone just as the solar storm reached its peak intensity. Nexus Prime's automated systems shut down all non-essential functions and retreated into full protective mode. The station would survive, but it would be uninhabitable for several days while the radiation levels decreased. As the evacuation fleet reached safety, Captain Torres opened a general communication channel. All ships, this is Captain Torres. Evacuation complete. All personnel accounted for. Total casualties, 0. The celebration that followed was unlike anything the alien crew members had ever experienced. For most species, surviving a crisis brought relief, but also exhaustion and a need to recover from the stress. The humans, however, seemed energized. By their success, they were not drained by the experience. They were exhilarated. Professor Vexilon spent the next several hours interviewing every human crew member about their experience during the crisis. The pattern was consistent across all subjects. As stress increased, their focus sharpened, their thinking accelerated, their physical coordination improved, and their decision-making became more accurate. Dr. Chen, the professor said, its crystal form now a brilliant, excited gold, I believe. You and your species represent the most significant discovery in galactic biological science in over 3,000 years. You have shown us that our most fundamental assumptions about intelligent life were incorrect. Sarah smiled, still feeling the lingering effects of the incredible focus she had experienced during the crisis. But, Professor, don't you see? This explains so much about human history. Our greatest achievements have always come under pressure. We built our most advanced technologies during wars. We made our greatest scientific discoveries when facing existential threats. We reached our highest potential when the stakes were highest. Dr. Veltith, her form gradually expanding back to normal size as the crisis passed, added her analysis. This trait would explain how humans developed space travel so rapidly despite being a relatively young species. Most civilizations require thousands of years of cautious, methodical development. But humans thrive on challenge and pressure. Director Coulthers had been running calculations on the evacuation efficiency. The coordination we witnessed today was remarkable. In a typical multi-species crisis, we expect to lose between 5 and 15% of personnel due to stress-related mistakes and delays. Today, with humans coordinating the response, we lost no one. 3 weeks later, as Nexus Prime came back online and normal operations resumed, the implications of what had been discovered were beginning to ripple through galactic society. Professor Vexilon had published preliminary findings that challenged 3 millennia of accepted biological science. The paper, titled The Human Exception, Performance Enhancement Under Stress, became the most downloaded research document in Institute history. Sarah found herself appointed as the head of a new department, Human Performance Studies. Her mandate was to investigate and document the unique ways humans responded to stress, pressure, and crisis situations. More importantly, she was tasked with developing new emergency response protocols that could take advantage of humanity's unique abilities. Captain Torres was promoted to head of emergency response operations for the entire Nexus Prime sector. Chief Engineer Rodriguez became the lead designer for crisis-resistant spacecraft systems. Dr. Kim established the first human-led emergency medical response team. The galaxy had discovered something it had never seen before, a species that became stronger under pressure instead of weaker. And as word spread throughout the galactic community, a new understanding began to emerge about humanity's place in the cosmic order. They weren't just another species to be catalogued and studied. They were the species you called when everything was falling apart and you needed someone who could think clearly, act decisively, and perform miracles under impossible pressure. They were the species that didn't just survive crises, they thrived. In them, the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. Asterisk.